If you melted down all the gold ever mined in human history, it would fit in a 22-meter cube. That's it. To use the US metric system, that's smaller than a tennis court. Gold, the one metal that has captivated kings and built empires, is now sitting in your investment portfolio. But how did this shiny rock go from being dug up in ancient rivers to trading at over 1 lakh rupees for just 10 grams? Let's find out. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm your host Avni, and today we will talk about the world's favorite metal.
As gold hit a historic high, gold continues to shine. Gold continues to shine bright. Gold prices have hit a record high.
From the courts of ancient caves to the modern stock exchanges, gold has always been here. It's not just a shiny rock, it's a symbol of trust, security, and enduring value. In the world of finance, gold is a big deal because it's a hedge against inflation, against instability, and against time itself. Gold has been used as a store of value for centuries. Unlike paper currency, it does not corrode, degrade, or cannot be printed at will. Its scarcity and permanence make it a reliable store of value, especially during times of crisis. When markets falter, gold tends to rise. That's why central banks hold it, investors buy it, and unlike bonds or stocks, it is tangible and comes with no counterparty risk, which means it's not one man's asset and one man's liability. It has its own intrinsic value. The history of gold is long connected with money. You must have heard about the gold standard, right? The Britain and the US abandoned the gold standard in 1931 and 1933 respectively. However, an international version continued on through Bretton Woods system, which was a regime of fixed exchange rates where the US dollar was pegged to gold at $35 an ounce and all the rest of the currencies were pegged to the US dollar. When the Bretton Woods system ended in 1971, the gold prices were allowed to float freely, and this soared. Amid the 1970s stagflation, oil shocks, and economic crisis, gold prices rose from mere $35 per ounce to $665 per ounce in just a decade. But post 1980, the world saw a period of robust economic growth, marked by high real interest rates and a strong US dollar. So, with an alternate store of value in the picture, gold prices saw a long period of steady decline. By the end of the 20th century, gold prices were back down to $253 per ounce. The 21st century ushered in a new chapter for gold prices, marked by several dramatic rallies tied to important economic events. First, the dot-com bust, then the 2008 financial crisis, followed by the sovereign debt crisis in Europe. By the mid-2011, gold prices had reached a new high of $1,825 per ounce. More recently, first the pandemic, then the post-pandemic high inflation rates, then the European political uncertainty, and now the trade uncertainty caused by tariff announcements have triggered another significant rally in gold prices. Gold has now reached a new nominal record high of $3,300 per ounce. And if the Russia-Ukraine war does not subside or the trade tensions caused by tariff announcements do not de-escalate, these prices could go further up. When viewing the gold's performance in a broader context, however, it is important to take a comparative approach. So, for example, if you had invested $100 in gold in 1971 in the US, the current value of your investment would be $4,500, which is an impressive return until you look at the same $100 invested in S&P 500 index, which would currently be valued at $18,500. Similarly, in India's context, if you had invested 100 rupees in gold and in Sensex at the same time in 1986, which is when the Sensex came into being, your gold today would be worth 4,600 rupees and your Sensex investment would be worth more than 14,600 rupees. This historical perspective reveals gold's dual nature. While it acts as a hedge in times of uncertainty or high inflation, it may also underperform other assets in times of more stability and growth. Okay, that is enough about history though. Let's come back to the present. Gold has exhibited exceptional momentum in 2025, reaching at least 30 new highs in the past year itself. This strong performance, mirrored across currencies, is marked by economic trends and sustained investor interest. Key factors such as geopolitical uncertainty, a weaker US dollar, falling interest rates, and inflation concerns continue to fuel demand and shape price movements for gold. Gold prices in India, like the whole world, have also reached historic highs, touching 1 lakh rupees for just 10 grams in April 2025. Several factors are driving this rally. Let's take a look at them. First is geopolitical uncertainty. The Russia Ukraine war and trade disputes are driving investors to gold. A weakening US dollar is making gold more appealing globally, especially to non dollar holders. Then there is massive central bank buying, particularly in Asia. Annual central bank purchases exceeded 1,000 metric tons in 2022, 23, and 24. In 2024, India and China alone each added over 70 tons. But why are the central banks buying gold? There are quite a few reasons. Diversification from dollar-based assets and thus spreading the risk, hedging against inflation and currency volatility, a safe bet among the geopolitical instability, de-dollarization, especially for countries like Russia and China. Gold helps bypass US sanctions and the dollar system. Asset revaluation, as rising gold prices strengthen central bank balance sheets. And because central banks expect gold to remain a valuable long-term asset. There are a few domestic factors as well that are affecting gold prices in India. The first, and I feel the biggest, is rupee depreciation, making imported gold costlier even with a weakening dollar. Then there is another factor, not as significant as rupee depreciation, but still playing a small part, is growing investor demand for portfolio hedging. Indians are increasingly turning to gold to guard against inflation, currency risks, and market volatility. All of this creates an environment of uncertainty, perfect for gold. Just a few days ago, as US China trade tensions flared, top analysts like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan projected gold to hit $3,700 per ounce by the end of 2025 and as high as $4,000 per ounce by mid 2026. However, recent softening of stance by President Trump and signs of cooperation from China have caused a 2% dip. Still, gold remains above $3,300 per ounce, and analysts remain bullish. This optimism is based on real trends like expected interest rate cuts in the US and China later this year, which could further lift gold since gold becomes more attractive when interest bearing assets offer lower returns, and ongoing central bank buying, especially by China and India. This steady demand adds strong support to gold prices and keeps the floor from dropping out even when short term dips happen. There are still a few warning signs to watch though. If trade tensions de escalate between the US and China, or if a fast paced economic recovery happens, the need for a safe haven asset will steadily decrease. Or if the interest rates go up instead of down, there will be better return giving assets available to invest in. Or if the central bank suddenly stop buying, that will leave a big gap in gold demand, hitting its prices. But for now, gold is well positioned for a strong year ahead. Which brings me to the last section for today. How to add gold in your investment portfolio? Well, there are multiple ways. You could go for the physical form of gold, which is gold bullions or jewelry. Or you could go for the paper form of gold, which is gold mutual funds, gold ETFs, sovereign gold bonds, etc. Or there is a more indirect way of investing in gold, which is investing in companies that mine gold. All of these are good alternatives. You could choose one or a combination thereof, depending on your risk profile and investment strategy. If you want to know pros and cons for each, There are multiple videos available on YouTube. You should go check them out. Given all that we've talked about today, about gold being a hedge against economic downturn or inflation, or it moving in the opposite direction of stock or bond markets, we all agree that it makes sense to add gold to our portfolio because it's an excellent diversification tool. But the question is, how much of our portfolio should be gold? Well, there are two most common allocation strategies suggested by experts to help us determine how much of our portfolio should be gold. Let's look at each of them in turn. First, the 10 to 15% baseline allocation approach. Wealth managers and institutions such as Morgan Stanley and Sprott Asset advocate allocating 10 to 15% of a diversified portfolio to gold. This range balances gold's risk mitigation properties with its opportunity cost, which is forfeiting equity growth. Out of this, 10% is typically allocated to physical gold, which is bullions or ETFs or sovereign gold bonds, for stability and liquidity, and a tactical 0 to 5% can be allocated to gold mining stocks or ETFs for leveraged exposure to price movements. The second is age adjusted allocation. Weekend Investing proposes a dynamic formula, which is age by 2% of net worth. For example, a 40-year-old investor would allocate 20% to gold. This model increases gold exposure with age, reflecting a shift towards capital preservation over growth. Now, with the help of an example, let us understand how to implement these percentage allocation strategies. So, say if your portfolio is worth rupees 10 lakhs and the mix is 90% equity and debt and 10% gold. Allocate 1 lakh to gold bullions, gold ETFs or mutual funds, and then rebalance annually. So say if gold outperforms and rises to 12% of your portfolio at the end of the year, sell the excess and reinvest in equity or debt to restore the 10% target. Similarly, if equity debt combo outperforms and rises over 90%, sell the excess and reinvest in gold. These were strategic allocation strategies wherein you invest a specific percentage of your portfolio in gold and you rebalance your portfolio on a periodic basis, say yearly. But you do not change your portfolio on short-term market movements. There are tactical allocation strategies as well, where you adjust your exposure to gold based on market conditions, economic outlook, or specific events. This approach is more active and seeks to capitalize on short-term opportunities and risks. Let's look at this with an example. Say we start with the same basic portfolio mix of 90% debt plus equity and 10% gold. Now, in periods of high inflation or rupee depreciation or geopolitical uncertainty, we increase our exposure to gold to about 15 to 20%. For example, if the rupee weakens sharply and gold prices start rallying, we shift an additional 5 to 10% from equity or debt to gold ETFs or bullions. Once this risk subsides and gold prices become overheated, we shift back this excess money into equity or debt. But keep in mind to strictly only use liquid instruments such as gold ETFs or mutual funds for tactical moves, as they allow easy entry and exit. Whatever strategy or combination of strategies you end up using, there are two key things to keep in mind. First, use efficient vehicles, ETFs, mutual funds, etc., rather than physical gold for portfolio investments. And second, rebalancing is absolutely crucial to maintain your intended risk profile and capture gains. If you're new to gold investing, consider a gradual approach. Start with a smaller allocation of gold, increasing it as you gain more confidence and experience. Consulting with a financial advisor is always a good idea for determining the correct allocation strategy for your investment goals. So be wise, consider all of this before you put your hard-earned money into these kinds of assets. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button and tell me in the comments what is your future outlook for gold. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming stories. Until then, thanks for watching and keep shining.